Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. We're going to continue our bird channel challenge. Today I think I'll do one of a couple of hummingbirds. You guys have requested so many, so I think I'm going to do the ruby red. So here it is right here. This is a free photo that I got out on the internet. Really nice. I even like this kind of greenish gray background that is behind it. And if I lean it a little green, we'll be able to really bring out the red colors that is in him here. I think that'll work pretty nice. Anyway, so what I've done here for the board is, this is an 11 by 11 inch board and a square. I decided I'll paint him up on a square, and then I just sketched him out, put a little oval this way and a little oval this way for his head, and then just rounded that one and convex that one right there, or concave that one right there, and give him a longer little beak out there. And of course, and again, like I showed you last time and everything in sketching, the eye usually goes right in line with the beak. So you just draw a little line right there, right through the beak, and that's right where you position that eye. So it's going to be a lot of fun, okay? Don't forget to comment, like we like to see some comments, and like the video. Help us by sharing some of the video if you like these challenges and want to see a bird or so out there, different types of birds. I've got some nice requests from different ones. So we might do a few more than 12, because some of them sound really fun to paint. So palette-wise here, this is my Hansa yellow, my classic palette that I like to paint. The Hansa yellow, the Darulite yellow, the yellow oxide, naphthol red light, which is going to be that nice bright one that's going to go onto his throat, burnt sienna, pine green, phthalo blue, quinacridone violet, red violet, and my white. I'm also going to use today extender medium. This is a medium that goes out into the line here. Now, this is a glycol-based medium. This does, a lot of you, we see a lot of sales of our extender medium. It does not work with all acrylics. Keep that in mind. You're going to have to test it, because I don't know the formulas of every single acrylic that's out there, and acrylics are different. Contrary to popular, now acrylics, what makes it acrylic is that water is the solvent, but you can have so many different variations of acrylic. There are so many out there. An extender or glycol that's made to slow down the drying time of the paint only works with certain types of acrylics. Okay, so keep that in mind. So this is the extender medium. I have it out in a nice little cap here. And I'll be adding that to do some of the blurring techniques that I'm going to use into the background. I'm going to start out with my, these are some of my classic little bird brushes, my small filberts and flats, and the number 4 round that I really like for doing the details on the bird. I'm going to start out though here with my 3/4 inch, and I'm going to take some extender medium. Now the background here, this is a regular MDF board, and the background here is actually a color, a pre-made color that we use called medium white. But if you look at the tube and stuff here, you see it's titanium white, black, and yellow oxide. So it's yellow oxide and it's white. And from this palette, you can make it pretty easy by taking pine green, a touch of red violet, which makes a nice gray, warm it slightly with yellow, and add some white, and you can make that color. But it's a beautiful color I use a lot, and I use it in conjunction with this medium beige as what we call check value colors. It's what I'm working here on this mountain lion that I'm doing for one of my classes. And when I use those as a check value, and I explain that all in the class, but it goes pretty quickly. I've worked on this mountain lion now for a total of 3.5 hours. That's all it's taken me to put this in. A lot of painting is just finding the right kind of tone, and if you have certain ways to get there quicker, it really does help. And so I use this little card here, and which is what I call a check value card, and I put out a medium white and a medium beige, and I hold it in different areas, and it tells me if that color's leaning violet, or up in his neck leaning green, or leaning yellow. And so and it works really, really well. Anyway, okay, let's get into our little ruby red here. I'm going to make some a lighter kind of a grayish green. So I'm going to take my pine green, a little bit of my red violet here, and these make nice grays. See that beautiful gray that comes off of that? This makes a nice, beautiful gray, and I kind of liked that gray that was right here. So this is pretty close to that gray that's right there. I'm going to add some extender to this, and I'm going to push this through here. And so a combination of this gray will be cooler because it has that red violet in it, which is a cool color, and it will be a nice foil here also for our yellow, our medium white background, which is slightly warmer. So here I'll just pick up, and I don't always want to make exactly the same value or exactly the same color. I like this where I get a little bit of modeling through that gray color. So I have some variation coming through here. Now putting a little extender is going to keep it wet here for, I'm just adding a little bit, so I keep it wet for 30 minutes or so here while I work on it a bit. Tap back just a bit here. Now I was thinking with this guy it would also be kind of nice. Let's give a little bit of movement to that. Now it would be nice if I give the impression, maybe the impression of a, let's put it warm too with a touch of yellow. White and a touch of yellow, yellow oxide to warm it slightly. And that will, you can look at it right here, what the two will look like. Maybe I was thinking, that might be kind of nice to, have him sitting here on, I haven't done this in the birds in a while, have him sitting on a casual lattice that most of this will disappear, but we'll just take our 3/4 inch brush here like this, pull through, blur it out a bit here, because we don't want it to be maybe a little bit heavier right where he is, but we'll just pull through and suggest it here in a few other areas here. I like to, when I paint like this, I like to paint very suggestive of it, so some of it disappears, comes back, and it's just very, very suggestive of it, so you get an idea of the movement, but it's not, I don't like it because it can compete against him really easy. So I just like to give a few little suggestions of it there, and that's all it really needs, is just some light color, light little movement, maybe a bit of it back there or something, right back in there, because we're going to cover it. So with a lot of our flowers and stuff. And I was thinking maybe he has a red here, but maybe some light pink will cool this off. We'll gray it with some of the grays from the background here, and these might make fun little flowers. Usually I will pick a complement or something for him, but I think I'll go almost like an analogous or related type of theme today, a color theory theme, and use the colors that way. We'll push just a bit of this back here, just softly back there, some of those colors. The light pinks, let's get a bit more into some reds, just a bit more reds here. And I haven't decided if I'm going to do like a little wild roses, just little roses, little flowers, or I'm just moving color. That's all I'm doing right now. Blur that around a bit. This is the blurring of it that I like to do. So I don't set any shapes. I'm going to paint him before I go in there and set shapes. These are just ideas, and it's easy to paint out. And sometimes when I do this use stuff this casually like this really helps me paint the subject, which is our bird here, quite a bit more casual. Now look at how much of that little lattice there, covered up with that. We can take some soft green here, pine green, and let's add just a bit of extender. Let's warm that with just a bit of yellow and model in a bit of light here. Let's just add a bit of this through. Just some more color variation. I love to look at the color here. That's good. Let's put some soft back up there. And that'll be kind of fun. Here, a little movement. Whenever I paint the birds like this, you know, they just go over really, really well. Okay, so let's make a plan. Now we can paint him more detailed with our 4, like I've showed you before. We can paint him more alla prima, very loose strokes with like a little number 4 flat, which is I also like, or a number 4 filbert. I like the little filbert for some of it. I'm going to use the filbert on him today for some of this. But looking at that, he's got a lot of detail, so we're probably going to want to use our number 4 round. I really like to paint up in here a lot of detail on him and make some of these colors come out, get some of these lights and darks in there. So I'll probably use my number 4, but I think I'm going to my 4 round. But I think I'm going to start out with my 4, or you might even go to, if you want to make it a lot of interest and very painterly, you might even go to like your little 2 here. That means a lot more work and basing in, but he's got a lot of subtle little color changes. And let's make a plan. Let's start this like a premier coup, where we'll start with some darker tones. So I'm going to take some pine green and some red violet and make that almost black color there. And let's just use the chisel of our brush here, and let's just put in his beak here. And then sometimes I like to just pull like that, so it gives some blurry edges and stuff to his beak. Now, I've got that really, really sharp there. It kind of goes to a point at the very end, but we'll just getting it a little bit rounder, wider. So a couple times there like that, just slide on the chisel. Let's pull some of that dark. We're going to see a stroke of it down like this. Just touch, push that with your finger a bit and get some of that initial movement into this paint, okay? So let me just set this kind of someplace we can see this a little easier, okay? And of course I'll set it right on all that wet paint. It'll transfer, but I'm a professional, I'll fix it later. So let's put in some burnt sienna here. So I'm right down in through here, I'm looking, okay, I've got to pick up some warmer, maybe some burnt sienna tones here. And I want to come right back down, pulling down through that eye area, come up pretty close to his eye, and right to the back. Model that with some of the dark, let some of that dark come through. So you get this changing of tones here. And we'll touch a little bit down here. Okay, so you see that. Now we can just push a bit to soften some of those edges, just like that, and so you'll get some of that undertone. Now, up here at the top, it's slightly green, so let's go that way. Let's just pick up a little bit of pine green with that. Burnt sienna, a little bit of pine green. Leave it slightly heavy to the pine green, just a bit here. And let's do some short turning contour following, what I call contour strokes. Maybe let this go a little bit softer towards the back. We really want to build up a bit into the front here. Right towards his eye, right down towards that beak. Blur that just a bit there. Now, you can also use a small brush, you know, and it was like, I had one of my students that had these really nice, long, you know, beautiful manicured nails, and she's like, I can't get in there with my nails. And I said, cut them. I mean, are you going to be an artist or what? Or you could use a small brush. So she went out and bought a whole bunch of small brushes, but everyone's different, you know, and so I don't ever have to worry about that. So I keep them really short because I like to push with my fingers. So I'm going to go down in here, burnt sienna, and I love that this is a color I use all the time. Burnt sienna and darulide. And if I model that, see, we want to get that modeled look in there. So I'll tap the brush into there. It won't stroke too much, so I get some modeling of the color. So don't overblend it. Just kind of tap these together a bit like that. And then you'll come up right up above the eye, and we'll just kind of tap that through. If it gets too light, add a little bit of burnt sienna into that. Then as we get to the back, we can stroke just a bit. So we get that nice bit of coloring. Let's put a bit more burnt sienna into that. Tap that through. Sometimes a short little stroke like that Gives you a nice interest. He's got a little tuft of hair back there. And we can slide up towards that darker color and push a bit darker, bit of that green and violet there. Touch in a bit of that, widen that out a bit. Just a mark or two up in there, so you get all these beautiful little tones in there. That's what makes him pretty. They just glisten there. Tones, colors. But it's a lot easier to put Darulite down and then tap burnt sienna in it. Remember this. It's a lot easier to put Darulite down and tap burnt sienna in it than it is to put burnt sienna down and tap Darulite. So Darulite, if you're heavy on anything, go heavy Darulite and tap burnt sienna in it. You get better control. Now, I'm going to use just a little dark mark right up there in front of the eye. There's that little dark mark. Let's reinforce that on his throat. A touch more there. Right in there. Okay. And now you could use the small round, or I'm just going to use the corner since I'm using my little 2 here, which is painting him pretty nice. I'm just going to tap in the eye here, and I'm going to tap a little darker there. I usually like to put, even though I don't see it in his eye, I do like to do that. A little bit of warm burnt sienna in there. Now I'm leaving that background. I got that little bit of light right there on the back of his eye, and so that ought to come out pretty nice. I'm going to just pinch wipe some of this color out. Sometimes I touch it into a little extender and pinch wipe that color out. I don't want to introduce any water right now into my painting, and because I want to keep this where I can blur it for just a few more minutes. I'm going to go right into some of my red, and we're going to go quite powerful red. Now, I'm not done with his eye and stuff in there. I'm going to use my small brush, but I'm letting it kind of dry up because I don't want to work into the wet. So I'm going to put on a lighter stroke here. I'm going to add just a touch. Sometimes it's great to come over with like an orange, and then we'll come back over that with a red later on. The orange will cause the red to glow just a bit more, especially if you're doing an underpainting or something like this. So let's put this on, and then we can let it go a little darker down into this side in here and up this side. This is Naplo red light here. Okay, and we'll walk that right up. Now I know it's too light, but we want to go light and then take it down into position here. Okay, so, and that little yellow, this spots that really nice. So we'll let that, as that's drying up, we might hit that with a little bit of red and see, now see that just glows just a bit more. See, that's what I want. Just that little bit of glow there. Now let's take some of we have our pine green and red violet is our dark. Let's take a little burnt sienna over here to the side, with just a touch of that, and let's just lightly skip down this, leaving some of that. I'm going to add a touch of extender here to it too, to thin it out just a bit. I want it slightly thin, and we'll just lightly brush this over with a few marks so that we leave some of that nice red showing. And then we'll come down. There's more detail, more dark coming down in almost like a little band right down there. You can negative paint up to the edge of the feathers there and leave just those red tips. That's kind of nice. There's a bit of an angled one coming back like that. I just lightly lift off. Leave some of that. Let's go just a touch darker back here to put in some of those feathers by that follow off of his eye here. Now we're going to reset these red ones again. I'm just going to rinse that color out of my brush for a second. And since I don't want to introduce water, I'll pinch wipe it, and then I'm going to push extender back into my brush here so that I get rid of some of that fast drying water. Not that it wouldn't hurt. I mean, it wouldn't hurt too much right now. Let's go back over here. Let's just come right up in here. This is still all nice and wet, see, but I want to get this more towards the yellow side. I'm going to come down this way here, and I'm just going to use some of the gray that I already made earlier, and we're going to take that lighter and warmer. So when you look at this color here, it's lighter and warmer than here. So whatever you establish as your background, we're going to take this lighter and a little bit more yellow, and I'm going to model it here a bit so it's not mixed really, really well. And let's come down, and so you should see it a little lighter and a little warmer. And it will dry a touch darker, so we'll come right up to the edges there and see with that nice gray underneath. You don't even have to go all the way up to your to the edge of his feathers there and destroy them. You can just leave some of this. Let's get a little bit of our darker color here, which will help the roundness here of him. Here, right there. So it's almost like a bit of a pink underneath there. See that? Right on that edge there. So we'll push a little pink right in there as well. And a little bit more yellow in there too. We'll push some of that color, that tone in there. But let's get also a bit lighter. Leave some feathery strokes. I like to get that, I like it to dry up just a bit, and then I like to do these kind of thicker strokes, so I'll be repeating this. But see, I like to do feathery strokes like that with a value just a touch lighter than what I have in the base, and then that really starts to get a lot of interest to them here. So let's let some of that dry up for just a second so it becomes easier to paint. And I'm going to go to my 4 round. I'm going to put a little water into it so it points up, or you can use extender. And I'm going to use some of this lower value, his body color here, and I'm going to actually push out a little bit more, just tiny little touches of that eye ring right there. Maybe a little bit more than what you see on him, because I like how the eye ring makes the eye sparkle just a bit. So I'm going to touch into that. Let's use a lower gray right up here in the front. Just a little mark of it. Tiny little touch of that catch light up in the front. There. He's got a tiny little catch light. Now, maybe I'll make that just a bit bigger. Sneak up on it. There we go. It's got some smaller little gray, kind of like little feathers kind of look to some of his area here. I'm just going to tap in a little extender, thin little color, just some little marks of light marks of feathers through there. Just touch them a bit and they'll soften out. So he's got a few little marks like that following there, right in there. Yeah, maybe this goes back just a touch there. That's not too bad. So that catch light's just a touch lighter than it is on him, and that's okay. I'm going to leave that. I'm going to take some lighter yellow here. Hansa, maybe a touch of Darulide, and some white, a little bit of white. Let's just kind of reverse tap a bit of that in there to make some smaller little light feathering up around his head here. Now again, a lot of times, and this is going to be one of them, I paint too much, and then I'm going to take some of my darker, my burnt siennas, yellows, model that into the brush and tap through there and take just a bit of that down. And I always find, and this is very true for how I paint, I always find it much easier to take and adjust with the dark than it is with the light. So I tend to overpaint, and always remember that. I tend to overpaint my lights because the darks take them out a lot easier. So sometimes it's easier to, at least for a lot of the things I do, especially if I'm doing Premier Coup and stuff, is I like to overpaint the lights and then take down with the darks and stuff. So we'll look how that dries down, but I think that's going to be kind of fine. Maybe that's a little too perfect there. We'll just break up that edge a bit. Okay, that worked pretty well. I'm going to put even though it doesn't show it, I'm going to put just a little shine light on the tip of his beak there, just because that adds always a little bit more. And there's a corner of his mouth has a touch of light right in there. So I'll put too much, and then I'll back it right out a bit. Let's back it out again with color we can see, Dave. Here we go. There. That works. Okay. So there, down. Now I'm going to rinse the color out of that brush. We'll put it away for a few minutes. Go back to my 2. You could also use a small filbert. I'm using a small flat. That color's dried up just a bit. Now we can come back and really see how you can really stroke on the heavier body forming feathers here. And get a nice, as soon as the color tacks up a bit, it's easier, especially with the lights. It's easier to, and you can negative paint up, tap it up to give some more of those rounding. If you want to make perfect little rounding circles, you could do it another time with a filbert as well, but you can just tap through. Let's grab a bit of our yellows here, coming down this side. Grab some yellows. Grab some dirty color here from our grays and stuff. Push that through. We can just push that color in. There. That's pretty good. That gives you a nice little undertone there of him. And let's push some of this right down through here. And I just use the corner of the brush, just tap, 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 tap. So I get some nice modeling variation here. Now we can go slightly, and it's really hard to see, but there is kind of a slightly yellow-green there. So I want to go yellow-green. Little Hansa, tiny bit of pine green, some of the dirty color here. Let's push that in. There, I see that color in there. And we can go more burnt sienna. I always like to keep that gray, which is basically our background, which always works really nice. Keep some of that kind of grayish color around. Let's add a touch of that to some burnt sienna. And just, you do small little skipping with just a corner of the brush here like this to set up the pattern of his, on his breast there. Go a little darker up here in the corner. Then just small little touches here. And if you get too much, paint it back out with some of your yellows and stuff and restate it again. Work it a couple of times, but slightly different areas, so you get some different heaviness of the heavy color, different ways. Let's pull the body down, body strokes down, and pull and push a bit, like that. That's pretty good. It's got all this modeling, more gray over on the other side. Do you see that? A little bit more green too. Slightly more green. Let's push that out here. I'm going to go a little heavy. I'll show you why in just a second. I'm going to go a little heavy with it. And then I'm going to push back up and shear it. This will give me a nice kind of a lost edge and a nice painterly look to that side of him there. Now you could come in there and do those bands. Just touch a couple of times in there with those bands like that. Okay. But I do like that real quick little shear off. Let's shear off this edge too. So we'll stroke down in and then I'll push back just a bit. There. Maybe sometimes I'll set back a couple little strokes to bring it back, but that's up to you. There we go. Just bring that back. Now, that is kind of a nice little straight-lined outline. That's my left brain coming through there, so I know to look for that stuff. I'm going to soften it this back up to a medium half tone of a gray. and just push some of that in. Let's go a little lighter. It's a bit wet, so that's not always easy to do. So, and if it does, you can just let it dry up for a second, but we'll just push that through and just destroy that outlined look. I don't like that. Maybe a bit of that red in there, pinky kind of color. That's pretty good. There. But I do want to leave that kind of lost over there. I like that. Down his tummy right down through here, we'll put a couple of strokes. Lighter, a little bit of yellow. Quick little mark strokes like that. Softer grade right up through there. There'll be a little more light right down here by his tail. Soften that through. Get some variation, maybe a little heavier there. There we go. Maybe a bit of this light pulls down where his leg will come out there and get covered up by flowers because I don't like them. and then we have I'm going to paint the back body here, which is again some of that yellow. Let's take some Hansa yellow, some Darulite yellow. It's kind of a fluorescent green, so we'll put a bit of the pine green into that, and we'll model through a couple of colors. I'll start with more of this green here, really fluorescent kind of green. Then let's pick up some of our burnt sienna. Now this will take it down really fast. I'm going to add just a touch of extender, thin it out. Maybe a bit of Darulite in there might be a good idea. And we'll tap that through it. Now just tap it, don't stroke it, just tap it through. So you're going to take some of it out. And remember, see that the burnt sienna Darulite here combination is darker than that one. So it takes it out pretty easy. Just use a little restraint, don't take it all out. But we'll leave a bit of that. And see, that gives you a really nice look right away. You see there's going to be some cooler areas here that we could grab our cooler color, carrying some of that down. Just little touches of that here and there. Try not to outline, but little touches. You can blur slightly. And see, that'll give a really nice look. Maybe a mark or two down in here. Slightly different. And that's good. Now, if you overdid something, you can take some of your light and increase. Let me get rid of that dark. If you're going to use Hansa, you got to get rid of the dark out of your brush. So now I'll rinse that with the water. Maybe put this extender back in there. I can go back with a little bit of light and like a Darulite and Hansa, but you won't get the same look, so you don't want to use it too much. See, it sits up on top slightly, and it looks like it sits up on top. And so I'm going to go back with just a little bit of green and just kind of soften that in, just little touches. This is why I like, in these kinds of birds and stuff, I like to start out with the light shining through the dark, because I don't like those colors sitting right there on top. But you know, sometimes you come back with a little shine, like a little shine area right in there. And we can add that here. But it's always a good thing to remember. Start light, finish dark. And then I'll take a bit of my burnt sienna and that Darulite and push that in. That's kind of nice. Let's go back to some of our dark. Our red, violet, and green here makes that nice dark. Let's put a bit of the burnt sienna in that. Bit of extender here. And let's put in the back of his tail here. It's going to come right out here. I've covered up my sketch, so I'm repaint sketching here. We'll widen up just a bit. Draw that in. Do I want to, you know, you can add, see, just a little bit of interest, just like that. Just a little more than what you see, you know, that gives some movement interest there. We can express that dark again, but I like to tap it like that and get that lost edge. That works so well. Now, this other the wing here, that when they fold up, their wings are really small. We can just use a little burnt sienna in that dark to suggest that. Here. Pull this down. You can use the chisel of this. You could use your 4 as well. Let's so that sets that down. Let's get a bit heavier right at the tip of the wing. Sometimes their tips of their wing curves just a little on the hummingbird. We'll put that in. What the heck? And you can fuzz it though, just a bit. There, that might be too much, but I like to give a little lost edge. Now, let's get back up to our diarylides. Maybe even a little bit of our green, diarylide, burnt sienna, a little bit of our greens, and just pull that down. That's going to be the colors in here. Here a bit more. It's going to come down through his little neck here, right down through his mantle, right in there. Let's take just a bit darker and push just a bit into the shadow underneath his wing, just a little bit more there. Give us some mottled area. Maybe a line or two for his little secondaries, or a little more interest there onto his wing if you want. Again, you could use your little number 4. If you don't like the chisel of this one, you could use your little number 4. But see, this just does quick little, nice little marks. I'm going to put a little more arch into his back. I think it can have that. There. That's kind of pretty. Worked out kind of nice. Now the thing is like, do I want to maybe take the red is dried up a bit. Maybe take a bit of I don't want to add white. I'll go pink. It's not pink. Maybe some red and some bit of Hansa there, and bring that red out. Just tap, and then tap the corner of the brush there, just to bring out a bit more of that red. Now, what really makes that red shine is the dark that's right there next to it. So if you want to make that red really shine, increase that darker value right there as well, and that red really shines. See, so it's up to you. I'll pull just a bit of the dark down through there. Leave that nice red tip up there. A little bit of that modeling through there. That's pretty good. Bit. I like painting that back and forth, so I'll leave that, and maybe just a touch darker green in my nice cool that will really play against the red, that nice bright warm red there. Nice cool color. Let's tap a bit of that down in through here. Maybe a bit more right in here now. And I'm going to let, go from dark, just slowly fade out onto his beak there. So your eye comes right back down into that area of him. And I kind of like that. And I think we've captured him. Put this over pretty good. I think we captured him pretty good. Not too bad. We could have a bit warmer, a bit more of a warmer neutral here coming down his body, but up into this area here, pulling down just a bit. Feather. Let's softly feather that just by pulling over and lift, touch and lift, touch and lift. That gives that feathery stroke that I really like. Let's soften that out. Let's go just a touch darker. Right there. Here we go. Then I'll come back with some light. Let's just restate a bit. So, if I'm painting a bird portrait, and this is very similar to a bird portrait, we'll put a bit of that light. I really like to drag the brush and get some of these, wispy things, and if I'm using a small 2 like this, I roll over onto its corner, and I use its corner and different pressures to make different stroke. Try, and that's the thing is, I do it very quick here, but I'm using, see, I just switched over to the chisel, so I've used different parts of the brush. My brush is never a constant repetitive stroke. I'll stroke and then turn and move and use different pressures at the same time to give the different looks here. And so, there we go. Let's put that one that helps his, really gives him a tall neck by that vertical stroke there. It really helps his neck, his long neck here. And then I think we got him there, down like that. That's pretty good. I like that. Maybe a couple smaller little strokes right there. There, that's a pretty good look. Now that will dry down just a bit as well, but that looks pretty good. Let's use just an idea of our darks here. Okay, and I'll just use the corner of the brush. You could also use the little fork round to put that in. That gives a pretty good look to him. And the question is, do I want to leave the body that lost over there? And you know, it's, maybe I'll push just a bit there onto his shoulder there, so I see that just a touch more, but I think that's fine. Okay, you little number 2, you did your job. Now I'm going to go over here and paint some flowers. And I think I'm going to go up to my 8 to make some nice soft little rose, kind of multi-petaled little flowers. What kind of flowers? I'm not quite sure. I'm just going to have some fun with some color and movement. There are so many flowers out there. You know, we had, when I lived out in California, in our house by the ocean in California, we had the most magnificent hydrangeas everywhere. And I'm not one that is a great gardener, and that was a plant that was out there that no matter what I did, they never died. It was great. But and we had tons of hummingbirds. Oh boy, it was just wonderful. I'm going to take, first let's go in and let's take a bit of the red. I don't want to go quite as bright as that. Matter of fact, I'm just going to tap just a bit more right there. Really bring out that ruby red kind of look there. Okay. I'm going to cool this just slightly with a bit of quinacridone. So naphtha red light, quinacridone. I also want to vary these tones over here with some yellow. So look at these beautiful tones here. Let's add a bit of extender. That'll thin it out. Let's push in some, we're just going to get real casual. So first thing I do is I always kind of, even no matter what flower I'm doing, I kind of push in a kind of a center. Sometimes I'll curve it up and around like that to give a direction. Now as I get down maybe around here, let's push one in here, I might get a little darker, a little cooler. That's going to contrast just a bit more. See, I'll tap it around a bit. Just push and tap, soften it with your finger. See, those are pretty colors with him right there. Maybe a little bit of that cool color touching right into there. Add some extender so this is kind of thin. We'll kind of give the idea of a base there, or that bowl there. Right in through here, right like that. That works. Those colors work. Now let's thin these out because we got to worry about carrying that color out. And I don't know exactly what it is going to be out here. So I just start pushing the color. All I want to do is travel the color. That's the most important thing about the art. I establish the focal part of the color, and then I travel. And when I'm doing this, guys, I'm worried about a smaller, darker area, lifting the pressure, thin color, and circular motions. I just little circular motions here is all I need to get real sketchy with some flowers and stuff, okay? That's all you need. Don't need to get wild and crazy. Let's thin this out. Just thin it out. And push some soft back here. Some softer colors back here. Maybe just a little bit more of a center there, like that. Okay, that's pretty. Now let's go up and pinkify this with some white. And we also add some of that Darulite, so it'll pump up the color just a bit, a little different. And we'll look at that. So it kind of pulls some of the yellow there. It's a bit bright, but it kind of pulls some of the yellow there. It will dry down. If I make it lighter by adding white, that's also going to tone it. So rather than add a gray, if I don't like it, I can always reach up here and grab any of this gray that's already, that's still wet. Grab that, drop that into that, and now my colors become, see how that just softened it out a bit more there. So I can push in and out a bit here. Let's just try this. Boom. Put a bit of that pink back up. So if I get too light, I just pick up pink back in my brush, stroke back through it, take some of it out, and I'm watching this little flower, up against the bird. So I want the little flower to have some interest, some nice interest, but I don't want it to take away from my bird here. So I'm going to give it a couple of little petals here. Make it quite petally, fluffy here. And if I think that red, which I don't think it's too bad, but I could soften that exchange a bit more. So first let's soften it, and then I'll come back in with a bit more red. And boy, these two together are so nice, always so nice. And a little bit of that Darulite. Let's just drop it slightly darker back out here. And a little bit of movement here. See, I'm just using quick, short loads, especially around here in this area. Now, those two are almost lined up, which is what I always tell you not to do. And I just did it. That's okay. I'm left-brained. So that's just one of my things. At least I notice it at some point, hopefully. So I'm going to change this a bit more down. Here, slightly different angle. And let's open that back up like this other one. Kind of like that. There. Okay. And make a nice little fluffy rose here. A little bit of Darulite. I like the Darulite and quinacridone too. It's a pretty color. Let's just add a bit of that. Right through there like that. Okay. Let's fluffy up. Add a little yellow. Here. Close this one off just a bit. Just paint kind of the shapes of the roses here. Don't get wild and crazy with them. They're not important. They're beautiful roses here are not important. See, I like this one pinker than that, yet one yellower too. That kind of worked out like I knew what I was doing. But the roses are not important, guys. They're accents to the bird. The bird's already done, so we're just going to fluffy these up. Push some color, get some movement. Put a couple of strokes across them, like that. Push a bit. Soften these out. I love to push the colors with my fingers because then I get a softer rose, softer looking rose. There, like that. And I'm going to turn this and pull down in a little bit more round since I'm trying to change the direction of this rose a bit more here. We'll go down this way so I can do that, see that better. There, that's better. Yeah, just a soft little rose. Let's put that lighter warm bit more yellow in it. Right over here, a little bit lighter, warmer, bit of a stroke. There, like that. Maybe a bit more here. It's hard because I've got a lot of paint on there right now, and I need to let that dry up because it's fighting my brush a bit. When it gets a lot of paint and it's wet, it gets hard. That's why I love to paint in acrylics. I'll just let it dry here for a second, then it's really easy. Let's put a softer, a little more pink, softer, little quick one right back here. Doesn't need to be that much. Just here. Let the bird be the important part. Here we go. Push that around a bit. Let's open it back up with some of that pink. So when I open it up, I push in, and then I start to widen out, dropping maybe the shadow side down like that. That opens up that little rose. Maybe close it just a touch. Maybe a little bit of a petal, but not too much up there because it's right by his head. So I don't want to do too light or get too much of an edge to those petals, because that'll compete against him. And he wants to be the most important today. Let's take a little green and burnt sienna here. Put in the idea of a few stems. Let's open up this composition a bit here too. Maybe drop some of these stems and stem line movements down this time here. And just grab a few little movement lines there. That's kind of pretty. There. And ideas. I'd like to just push in some real quick, thin out your paint a bit. Just ideas of movements. Set some of the background there to movements to the background, and then I'll water this down a bit. Let's put a bit of yellow in it, a bit of white, which helps tone it all down. Some soft greens here. Soft greens. A bit more. That's too light. Just a touch too light. Here. But if we keep these kind of a yellow-green, why a yellow-green? Well, there's that yellow-green that's in the bird here. So I'll push that around and see, he's got that yellow-green and stuff there. That'd be kind of nice to key off of a bit. And we could do some more direct oval shapes to... see, I'm just going to leave that pink back there like that is a set shape of the flower, and back there, and just a suggestion of it. But I can do a few oval shapes, different greens here, and here we'll pull out, give a little movement, soften those edges, push that color a bit. It's kind of nice. And see, all that dark color still pulling into there. So, I mean, I can, let me just show you. You can pull some darker contrast in and around. Like, see, if I start to go a little darker right into here, it starts to pull a bit out from him. But you can afford that because he's so dark up there, see? So you can afford to have a little more contrast if you want. So I can pull a little more contrast right in here like that. Pull that in, pull in maybe a bit more right in there like that, here, and that just gives you a touch more, bang into your painting. Then that's up to you. Now my wife will love it because she is a high contrast, and as a matter of fact, we were looking, there's two kitchens in this building, one down here in the studio part, the studio gallery, and then upstairs on the second floor, that's on the residence side of the building, there's another kitchen, and we're redoing the floors up there in that kitchen, put a new floor in. So my wife and I were talking about that because she's still back on the East Coast. We have to Skype and shop. That's how we see and visit each other all the time. And so I'm telling her, I said, I'd like to do that. She's supposed to be off by September. Maybe I get to see her again maybe in first part of September. And so we were talking, well, okay, let's, colors. And she immediately went to this dark, dark, dark oak. And I said, the cabinets are all white. She goes, yeah, pop. She likes contrast and pop. I'm the opposite. I'm soft, very soft exchanges of color. So something like this, she would like go, wow, now you're getting it. Add more. And I am just the opposite. She's been really good for my artistic career because she's got me to use a lot more color and a lot more contrast than I ever would have without her. So, and that's a good thing. So I'm going to put here, if I give like the indication maybe of a back calyx, I can turn a rose too. And don't forget, that's kind of nice and fun to do every once in a while, to turn some roses and stuff and make them go different ways. Let's just thin that out. Maybe add, softly, you can add a little bit of the rose colors, and then you get a softer, see, you get a pretty little color that you can use out here into the background. And because we're painting complements and stuff there, that tone's so nice. Let's move a bit of that color through back there, just like that. And maybe push a bit of these pinks back up through there, just like that. Maybe an idea of some of that. Just an idea. We want to be very careful. It's real close to his head, but just the idea of a little rose back there. See, it's kind of nice. And we can push a bit of a turned sideways rose here. Maybe a bit more of another rose out there. Here, like that. But sideways rose, let's pick up a bit of light here. And just turn one on its side. Pull down, so here's your calyx. You just pull down towards the calyx, rounding the top, and you'll look at the side of a rose here, just like that. So you turn it. Sometimes if I want to flatten out the rose a little bit, I'll put an idea of a petal or so on the bottom side or the back side of the calyx out that way there. But you turn a rose to the side, so, and that works too. And I always forget to do that, and it's such a good look. Let's just push it. I'm not really going to do anything more than push a couple of light values around here and suggest some more stuff. Let's paint out that one. Let's override that stem. It's a bit much of a straight line right there, so let's take out part of it just by pushing our rose in front of it here. Yeah, that's better. Let's give a couple of light petals. Always think of the light petals pushing back like this will drive the viewer back towards the hummingbird there. And then just some real soft ones right out here to finish off the back side of that rose there. Maybe just a touch more red. That might be a bit bright, so I'm going to gray it. If you move away from it, you can gray it. You can gray the reds with the greens, and the greens can gray the reds. So, you see, that makes a softer little, I can still have a bit of value, but it's a softer red than what's all the way up there. So it's getting softer, see? Makes it look like you know what you're doing. So, it's a nice compliment there for, let's just push some of that around. Model this a little lighter gray, pink. Just make some color more than anything else. That color can come up through here as well. Well, this pretty little, different little coloring. It's not quite as warm and bright as what's on him there. And again, if anything bothers you, you want to soften anything out, hit down towards some of these nice greens and just push them over the edge here, and you'll soften out. But I think this will be okay. I'm just going to push a little bit back, push a little bit of color. I like just the soft color movements here. Ooh, I like that. I accidentally hit a little extra burnt sienna. It's kind of neat because that carried some of the colors right out of him. Sometimes I like that. Follow that. Those you've painted with me for a while, you know I like Eugene Pettit, and I like those little color, registered colors that he does. And ideas. That's what you do. You paint lots of stuff and get yourself some ideas for painting. So those are pretty soft. The flowers themselves, like it's through here. Now, I could increase. Should we be daring? I think so. Let's give it a try. I'm going to increase a little bit more light right up here. Boom. And make that triad of light. 1, 2, 3. Right through there. Triad of light. Very. Boom. Right through. And if I do that, that'll just help support. So we'll just come back and hit a little more light right on those little roses there. Be a little daring. There we go. Just hit that. I think that's enough for that particular area. Maybe a touch of our light pink, just kind of breaking that line there just a bit, so that line doesn't get too long on us. Just like to, there we go. That's kind of fun. That's kind of a fun little one. Just, what are we, a bit over an hour? I forgot to start my shot clock. I have a shot clock there that tells me the length of time and stuff. I forgot to do that, so I have to go off of what the camera, countdown on the camera. So we're a little over an hour and 10 minutes or so. You know, if you notice, they're all right about the same. An hour 10, hour 15 minutes, somewhere around there. Yeah, they're really kind of fun. Now the thing is, you know, I'll look, and since I have that real light white right up there, I might be really bold and daring to increase the white right on the back side of his eye here. See, that gives him just a bit more contrast right there. And it causes you to see, boom, just a bit more. And again, if I get too much, and I generally do, I just take a dark into my brush here. And well, even maybe a bit of warm in that too. And just tap back down through, take just a touch of it out. And that looks pretty good. That looks pretty good. So you could do a little bit more of his feather banding in there if you want. You know, it's and you can do it more transparently. You could use just a little edge of your 4 like that to put in a couple of bands if you want. You know, if you like that banding and stuff to pop out a bit more, you can do that. But I think I'm just going to kind of leave him. I kind of like that. I don't like, though, this is just too much of a line down there still. So I think I'll take softer gray and white. We'll go back. Matter of fact, this is my 4. And I'm going to stroke out here just a bit. Break that band. But break that view of that light there out like that, so it's still rounding his chest there, but I think I'll take that out. That's my decision there. It is a little darker over on him there, but you know, it's just real light, but I think I will do that because that gives a better flow towards those flowers too. So I'm just gonna change the photo a bit and do that. My choice. Push that light a bit more. And gray off that edge. Push in. I like that push up for that lost edge. That works really, really nice. Let's just restate that one more time. Alrighty. Yeah, I like him. I like the way he came out there, okay? So hopefully you enjoyed them. Okay, if you did, please hit like. Please comment down there for us. Okay, when you like the video and when you comment on the video, it really helps our distribution of the video. And so we're trying to do a lot of stuff. We'd like all these free videos to get out there farther so more people can see them and enjoy them, especially during these, terrible times that we're all going through. And this is something that we've wanted to do for everybody. So you can help us by sharing them, telling other things about them, liking them. If you like and comment, then YouTube rates that as a more active video. People like it, and then they'll show it, introduce it to more people, okay? So help us out with that, and help out everybody, because we're trying to have a bit of fun. And these painting and creating like this is a bit of fun if we don't get frustrated, okay? So help us out, please, by doing that. And comment, and if there's a special bird you want to see, I'm getting some great comments on some of the birds. So we're probably going to paint a little more than 12, but we'll get some more of them next time. And we're going to do some of the other hummingbirds, okay? I want to do the rufous hummingbird, maybe the Allens. I haven't painted an Allens for a couple of years too, so we'll look at some of those other ones and some fun ones, okay? Alrighty, I'll see you guys on the next one. You take care. Bye-bye.